we need to talk about for loops. Now here we have my code from the while loops example, and I'm going to modify this code into a for loop and show you guys that a for loop has very similar functionality to a while loop. It's very compact in its structure though, and I think it confuses people because of the way it has to be set up. So let's see if we can do this. In case you didn't watch the while loop video, what this loop does is it goes, sets mine to 0, reiterates to this while loop 100 times, counts from 0 to 100, and outputs it to the console, and then says all done. So how do we do that in a for loop? Okay, what do? We go for, open bracket, close bracket. That's where our setup is going to be. And there's our code block that's going to be executed. Now, our setup for the for loop is a little bit different. In our setup, there's 3 parts: the counter, the condition, and what we do to the counter after the loop has gone through once. So let's see. Our counter. Our counter in our while loop was int myInt equals 0. Okay, so int myInt equals to 0. Okay, we can do that, and we put a semicolon right in there, right within the brackets. Okay, so that's the first part, the counter initialization. Then what's the second part? Our condition. myInt is less than or equal to 100. Easy. We put a semicolon to separate it. And the third condition was what we do to myInt after the loop has gone through once in order to infinite loop. And what was that? That was myInt plus plus. I'll just copy and paste that right in there. Okay? And then our body of the loop is just like a while loop. We off what we want it to do. So we go here. There we go. And I just copy and paste that right in. Let's delete that because we don't need that. It's going to cause problems. We're going to hit play. Okay. Proceed. Uh-oh. I forgot something. Oh, right. After our third condition, myInt plus plus, after what we do to the counter after we're done through the loop, we don't need a semicolon. So we put a semicolon between the first and second one, and rather the counter and the condition, and between the condition and what we do with the counter after we're done one loop. But we don't need one at the very end. That's going to cause errors. Proceed. Look at that. It does the same thing as the while loop. Now, we can put different things in here. We don't have to have just plus plus. We can do plus 2, right? Let's see if that works. Or, my bad, plus equals to 2. That will work. Proceed. Now, we only counted every odd number. Now, we have to do plus equals because what this is saying is we take myInt plus 2 and then set that all to equal to myInt. Okay? So what does myInt equal to after the for loop? Because remember, after the while loop, we had myInt equal to 101 if you watch the while loop video. Now, I'm going to set this back to plus plus. There we go. There's the plus sign. And we're going to check what myInt is valued after the for loop. System.out.println, we're just going to copy that, paste that in there, and we're going to change that to myInt. Now, do not worry, it will give us an error, and that is expected. We go, okay, proceed. And what does it tell us? myInt cannot be resolved on line 17. That's because myInt actually doesn't exist outside the loop. Once you're done this loop, myInt disappears because we initialized it within the setup. Now what we can do, if we want myInt to persist, we could go myInt equal to 0, or rather, let's go just myInt. And let's get my keyboard working. myInt. Jeez, that's a bad day. Int myInt, there we go. And that way, if we don't specify that it's an int right there, what this is saying is we're setting the value of myInt to 0. And then, proceed, we should have 101 just as expected. So, myInt, if defined outside the loop, will continue to exist after the loop is done. with its modifications, just like you wanted to, if you wanted to do that. However, if you define myInt within the loop, it stops to exist after the loop is done. And that's all because of variable scope, and we'll talk about that later. But that's the basic structure of a for loop. I hope that helped you out to learn for loop or help you understand it better. That's for loop, yeah.